A teenager gains a power that brings pleasure to others. But what will he do with it? In the middle of the night, a man named Pfluger digs up what appears to be a grave. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning strikes, sending him flying back to his truck. Shaken but smiling, he leaves the scene. Kelly, a shy high school student, goes to a store to buy some food. On his way out, he bumps into his crush, Dominique, and her friend, Sarah. Although Dominique seems interested in him, Kelly is too timid to talk to her. Kelly has an eating disorder that compels him to eat non-food objects. Some bullies from school, Nelson, Reed, Tony, and Brad, catch him in the act and start mocking him. Dominique tries to defend him, but they toss Kelly headfirst into a trash can while filming the scene. Fortunately, the store owner breaks up the incident. Back at school, Kelly's eating disorder appears to be worsening. He lives in a trailer with his mother, Bernice. We also meet Red Elk, who's performing a ritual of sorts. A doctor visits Kelly, advising him to see a specialist since his issue is mental, not physical. Meanwhile, Pfluger convinces a group of people that he can cure any illness with his hands, for a fee. A woman with a leg problem agrees to be healed, and Pfluger places his hand on her knee. Miraculously, the woman recovers in front of the crowd. Impressed, Bernice asks him to help her son, and he agrees. Red Elk later confronts Pfluger, demanding he return the healing power that has belonged to his ancestors for over 100 years. Red Elk warns that anyone who tries to harm him only ends up hurting themselves. Pfluger refuses to give back the power and leaves with Bernice. When they arrive at Kelly's home, Pfluger insists on getting paid before he helps him. He touches Kelly but feels unwell and heads to the bathroom to collect himself. Pfluger returns, smoking, and when he touches Kelly again, he experiences all of Kelly's ailments and suddenly dies. Kelly wakes up and, for the first time in ages, tells his mother he's hungry. Bernice notices that the scar on Kelly's chest has disappeared. The next morning, Kelly accidentally cuts his finger, but the wound heals instantly. He tells his mother, but she doesn't quite believe him, just happy that his disorder seems cured. Later, when Kelly's bike breaks down, he encounters Dominique again, who comments on how different he looks. As Kelly turns to leave, Red Elk appears and strikes him, but each blow rebounds onto Red Elk, frightening him enough to make him flee. Kelly shares with his mother that he found a job. Suddenly there's a loud knock on the door. Gus, Red and Nelson's father and the school coach demands to know who hit his son. Kelly explains, but Gus doesn't believe him, which angers Bernice, and she slams the door in his face. After this, Kelly shows his mother his powers. He asks her to pinch him and she feels the pain instead. He even demonstrates that fire can't hurt him. In school, Sarah lends Dominic a hairband to tie her hair back. During class, Kelly, who is seated behind Dominic, notices the band falls in front of him. He picks it up gently and returns it. Kelly imagines himself with Dominique in a warm room where she tries to cool him down. In reality, Dominique begins to feel something unusual, and Sarah starts to feel similar sensations too. In his imagination, Kelly envisions Dominique and Sarah embracing him, causing them both to feel increasingly excited until Sarah lets out a sound in class. Kelly tumbles from his chair and quickly leaves while the girls are left puzzled. That night, they all meet at the beach where Nelson and his friends are bothering Dominic. Kelly sees this and steps in to defend her. The guys threaten him, but now, knowing his superpower, Kelly isn't afraid. Gus tells his sons to back off, but also warns Kelly of what he'll do once he learns what happened. Angered, Kelly grabs his bike and rides away. Brad and his friends follow in their sports car, trying to scare him by driving too close. At one point, Kelly falls from his bike and is hit by the car, but it's Brad who suffers the injuries. Shocked, the others jump out of the car, try to call an ambulance, but flee when they see Kelly unharmed, leaving Brad behind. Later, Kelly changes his shirt, noticing his wounds healing instantly. Dominic and Sarah find the abandoned car on the roadside and see Kelly without a scratch. He explains everything to them. Eventually, the police arrive with Kelly's mother, Bernice, and the sheriff questions the group, who falsely claim that Kelly caused the accident by stepping in front of the car. The next morning, Dominic gives Kelly hints to invite her to the movies, but he doesn't catch on, so she ends up inviting him. Meanwhile, Nelson and his friends plot revenge. That evening, Kelly is with his mother, who's feeling unwell, so he heads out to get her medicine. The bullies wait outside his trailer, and as soon as Kelly leaves, they put their plan into action. They tie the trailer's base to a truck and pull it, causing it to drop heavily, trapping Bernice inside. The impact leads to a gas leak, and moments later the trailer explodes with her still inside. Kelly pulls his mother from the flames, but it's too late. Later, at the hospital, the sheriff returns Kelly's belongings. Red Elk asks the sheriff for help to reclaim a power he says belongs to his people, but the sheriff doesn't believe him. After saying goodbye to his mother, Kelly runs to Pfluger's grave, with Dominic following. She tells him it's unfair that he has to leave, then kisses him on the cheek, giving Kelly the courage to finally kiss Dominic as he had always dreamed. However, she realizes that Kelly was behind the strange experience she felt in class that day, so she says goodbye and leaves. Kelly eats one of the leaves on Pfluger's grave, but immediately vomits. Sarah, who's watching from a distance, sees everything. Later, the sheriff takes Kelly to his new temporary home, mentioning that it appears the support of his mother's trailer was tampered with before it exploded. Just then, Kelly sees the guys who were responsible for his mother's death speeding past them, and enraged, he jumps out of the car. The group heads to the river, where Tower jumps into the water. Kelly finds his clothes, grabs a piece of his shirt, and uses his power to make Tower sink. Nelson pulls Tower to shore, but it's too late. Spotting Kelly, Red flees. Kelly is about to confront the next one, but the sheriff arrives, forcing Kelly to escape. That night, he goes to Dominic and confesses his plans for revenge, but she persuades him to force the guys to confess rather than seek vengeance. The next day at school, Kelly taunts Tony, who, in anger, throws chemicals at him, only to end up burning his own face. Sarah punches Kelly in the groin, and for the first time, he experiences what it feels like to be hit there. Kelly is about to confront Nelson, but the sheriff arrives to help Tony, giving Kelly a chance to slip away. That evening, Sarah tells Nelson she saw Kelly eat those strange leaves, realizing they might be his weakness. They decide to gather leaves from Pfluger's grave. The next morning, Red Elk gets permission to open Pfluger's grave while Gus trains Nelson. Meanwhile, the sheriff finds the chain used to pull down Bernice's trailer and confronts the guys. Kelly sneaks into their truck, finds a drill, and eats a piece of underwear. Nelson holds the container with the leaves, but Kelly uses a drill to injure himself, forcing Nelson to confess. The sheriff tries to calm Kelly down, admitting he knows about the powers Kelly received. Dominic arrives just as Gus attempts to stop Kelly but ends up on the ground instead. Nelson sprays the liquid on Kelly, weakening him, but Dominic quickly cleans it off. Gus grabs the sheriff's gun and aims it at Kelly, but when he pulls the trigger, he ends up killing both himself and his son Nelson. Afterward, Dominic and Sheriff Adler persuade Kelly to return the power. That night, Red Elk prepares a ritual to retrieve it, but Kelly has held the power too long, making it impossible to remove without killing him. Kelly tries to escape, but one of the officers accidentally injures both him and Dominique. Before she dies, Dominique asks him not to give up his power. Determined, Kelly decides that the power will die with him. Kelly consumes Pfluger's heart, experiencing all the pain he has endured before passing away with Dominique. Later, as their bodies are being transported, Dominique suddenly awakens, now holding the power herself, with a vengeful look in her eyes. That's the end of today's video. Please remember to support the channel by liking this video and subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next recap.